The next type of coded UI testing is actually, this is a non-Microsoft solution out on CodePlex, and it's called Code First coded UI testing. This is only good for browser-based applications. It's going to be much better for less stable applications because the UI map has a pretty the standard coded UI search capabilities are pretty sophisticated. It'll be looking for anding and oring a bunch of properties together to do things that would speed up your search. But the code first approach, what this is doing is this is kind of doing, let me just make sure. Yeah, this is doing DOM-based searches. So basically every control you're interacting with is pretty much, you're going to search the entire DOM to interact with every control that you're using within your test. So that's moving things around is not a problem as long as your IDs or whatever are staying the same. Okay, so that's going to be a lot more resilient than your standard coded UI tests. This is going to work well for large apps and large teams. Probably not huge apps because if the DOM is big, the searching for all those controls is just going to take too long. So okay for large apps, small apps, probably not for really complex, humongous applications. As I mentioned, it's browser-based only, so no WinForm, no WPF. There's no recording capabilities at all with this technique, so you're going to have to be a better coder. And as I mentioned already, this is going to execute more slowly. The final one I want to talk about is the coded UI test enhanced framework. Now, the thing about this one is that some teams internally at Microsoft use this. So that makes me feel better about, even suggesting folks look at a third-party framework. And the thing about this is, as of now, and I should mention, I've only seen demos of both the Qt and the coded UI Code First frameworks. I've worked on a Ranger project with folks that have used these, and we've had some discussions, so I feel qualified to mention them. But I don't want to mislead you in that, say that I've tried these and I do or do not like them. Okay, so again, my understanding here is this is browser-only apps. This will work well with large teams. This is pretty hardcore coding, so you're going to need some really strong coding skills if you're going to be writing these types of tests. And they do some pretty fancy searching here as well to improve the performance. So this is appropriate for very complicated applications. This is kind of because of, and again, when you get into these complicated searching algorithms, that's where you start to lose the resiliency. That's where you start to not search the entire DOM. So this is going to suffer if the UI is unstable as well, meaning you're going to be breaking your tests often. Okay, and this is also out on CodePlex, qt.codeplex.com. Okay, so now I'm really praying we don't suffer from the same performance problems we saw with Test Manager here. So what I want to do is go in and I've gone through all this in detail several times, so I'm not going to try and rewrite everything. So what I've got is a solution here. Basically, in my solution, I've got some business objects and a whole bunch of different tests. And let's just go, and I'm going to add a new test project, and I'm going to make it a coded UI test project, and I'm going to try and quickly show you the first three coded UI test methods here. Name my project, and because I told it I wanted to do some coded UI testing, what did I do? Did I add a new project? Yeah. Okay, it's going to come up and it prompts me, and it's going to say, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to record actions or edit the UI map, or do you want to use an existing action recording? So what I want to do here is I'm going to use an existing action recording. So if my test manager demo would have went better, we would have seen after I did my create ticket that I had saved an action recording. Well, when I went through this in the last few days, I do have one. So I'm going to use one of those action recordings. Come up and it's going to query and say which one do you want to create it from. And I know that ID 665 has an action recording. So I'm going to click OK. Leave the mouse alone. You're going to see the IE is going to launch and good stuff's going to happen, hopefully relatively quickly. Not relatively quickly. Oh, silly me. Okay, so here's what it did. It actually did complete relatively quickly. It just doesn't automatically execute it the first time. Okay, so if we go and we take a peek at what code was generated for me, it's created a coded UI test method for me. It used the action recording. Basically, it removes all the spaces within what's recorded in the action recording, and it creates a method for each of your different actions. So basically, I'm launching the browser, I'm clicking on a link and typing a title and so on and so forth. Rather than me reading this for you, let's just go ahead and execute this. See what it did for me. Okay, so again, this is within Test Manager. I created an action recording while I was executing a test, and now I've used Visual Studio to use that action recording and generate a fully functional, and I'm going to put in quote marks if you could see me, test. And the problem with this is that we are interacting a bunch with the application, so we've kind of run through stuff, and just because we didn't get an exception, I guess we can conclude that the test passed, but we haven't actually done any sort of assertion, right? We haven't tested anything at all. And so in my next demonstration, we'll take a look at that. So that's kind of the automatically generating code. It gives you a decent starting spot. But again, no matter what you do, it's only going to use the single UI map. So I use that creating a coded UI test from an action recording only for demonstration. I would only ever use this if I'm a team of one QA testing a relatively simple application.